These are the beads that you want to try to achieve when welding, or after welding I should say. And I've gone ahead and I've darkened these with a Sharpie and markers, just to show you guys the ripples, because if I try to show you guys these without any color on there, the light and the camera, or the lighting angle with camera, it just doesn't work. It's just too shiny and you guys won't be able to see those nice fine ripples. But I did a couple techniques there on the camera just to show you guys that, I mean, it's not just a drag and that's it kind of a deal. When welding with flux core, you can use different techniques, because flux core is pretty much just like stick welding, except that it's using the wire feed process. The first one I did here, just go ahead and ignore it because I let the heat get the better of me here, just to show you guys that I'm not perfect. This red one here, I pretty much use a whip and pause technique. So as I let the wire and heat build up a nice puddle there, I kind of pause at the beginning, and then I advance forward and then I stop, then I advance forward again and I stop, and then I advance forward again and I stop. What that allows me to do is build a puddle, and then once I stop, the puddle's going to be building up, and you go ahead and you drag it again forward before your metal or your molten puddle ends up doing this, putting a hole through your material. So as long as you keep advancing in a steady pace, you'll be fine, and you'll come out with a nice weld, especially for flux core. These are pretty decent welds for flux core, just because I am a little bit camera shy. My welds always look a little bit different off camera than on camera, so just the whip and pause, and that works fine. And this one I did here is actually the recommended, or what's pretty much on welding books, is just dragging your gun, and that's just pretty much dragging the weld. And all that does is you just build up your puddle, and once you get that established, all you got to go ahead and do is just advance at a steady pace. And this is much harder for beginner welders, just because you have a certain wire feed speed coming from the machine, and then you have to actually control the rest. So watching the puddle, make sure you get a little bit of a build up, because if you just drag this thing and you drag it fast, you're not going to get any metal deposits into the base of the metal or whatever that you're welding. And what ends up happening is you just don't have enough material in your weld. Now if you go too slow, there's two things that might happen, or a couple things actually, but the major ones are you're going to get cold looking type of weld, and everything's just going to puddle up depending on the angle that you have your gun pointed in or pointed at. And if you dwell too much on your weld, you're just kind of like pausing and going a little bit faster and pausing, you're just going to put a hole through your material, just like what I did here. And you can see from this one, I just went really slow, and you could see that the bead got wider on that one, and that's what will end up happening if you just go too slow. And another thing is, you might just pretty much, if you go too slow, you might just end up putting a hole through it, and with no buildup, it'll just be really flat. And the third one here, this one is another technique that I do use, and it's pretty much like the stick welding technique, where you make little circles or little cursive E's. And this one is really good for filling, and it also has a really nice bead profile. As you can see, kind of looks like stack of dimes there, kind of like this whip and pause. And that's how you pretty much get those nice ripples in a weld, is by doing the whip and pause. You can also do it on MIG, but you also have to lower the voltage and the wire feed speed, because these two, the green and the red bead here, have to deal with a lot of puddle manipulation. That's where the center one is just dragging it along. An experienced welder, that's probably what they're going to do anyways. And if somebody, like an experienced person in a profession where they're doing small tacks or small welds all day long, they're going to go with this. They're going to revert to this because, I mean, if they're in a manufacturing line and they're doing these types of weld, who's really going to see them, especially if they're behind a product like, I really can't say right now, but I mean, I can't really think of an example, but if the weld's never going to be seen, why would you want to do one of these? And it's going to take more effort and more time. There's just some days that people just, they don't want to work and they would revert to this. I mean, a really good welder is going to come out and do some really nice puddle manipulations just because they want their welds to be aesthetically pleasing. Or the automotive industry is the one that uses these really nice ripple effects in their welds. The rest of the world and manufacturing or whatever, they just drag, especially if they're using flux core. And if they're doing MIG, they're going to be pushing the weld, and they're not going to be doing any puddle manipulation, just one set wire feed and speed, and that's all they do all day long. That's all they do, and that's all their welds are ever going to look like. Doing all these different types, I mean, like these two, automotive, or the automotive world likes distinct ripples in their welds just for show, especially like on show cars. This other stuff, again, pretty much manufacturing stuff like that, where really nobody cares about the looks of the weld and it doesn't have to please anybody. So this last one here, cursive E's or little circles. There's other little zigzag methods. You could do the zigzag method with flux core, but the problem with flux core on like something like the red and the green bead here, the puddle manipulation, it's more of an advanced technique just because it's not MIG welding, but because the flux acts as the gas for the shielding. So the material inside the wire has all the flux, and with that flux it mixes into the weld pool, and it has deoxidizers. Those deoxidizers outgas, and as you're welding and your puddle is forming, that gas pushes all the oxygen and other crap trying to come into the weld, and as it outgasses that and it solidifies, that's what creates slag. A lot of people think that, oh, it's just I'm dragging the rod and then slag is magically forming. It's not magically forming, it's just outgassing, and as it solidifies it builds a nice slag on the top. And that's pretty much what slag is. It's not something magical that comes out of nowhere. It's not like you give the welding rod a little blanket and it covers itself after it's solidified to keep warm. No, it's nothing like that. Those are my techniques that I use. I really don't use this center technique. I like to use these more advanced techniques just because they help with filling, and it also helps with well, I mean, I really don't care if they're really beautiful ripples, and I mean, I'm not a robot, so I mean, those are my ripples there. A person who's really good at repeatability or welding in the automotive industry for the past 30 years, they can create some amazing looking welds just because that's all they do all day long. And they might do something, just similar for the rest of their lives, working with whatever gauge of material, building some type of product that makes their livelihood. And sometimes these people, they might be good at TIG or stick or MIG, but they're usually not good at all processes, just because they usually stick to one thing, or the one thing that sells, or the one thing that pays their, or puts food on their table, should I say. So with that being said, I guess I don't know what else I could say other than the red and the green here. That's what I'm doing. That's my kind of stuff. If a customer comes in and they just want to weld, I mean, you can always do something like this. and it still penetrates and it's still good. It's not really pretty, it's not aesthetically pleasing, but I mean, if it's for farm equipment or something and the guy comes in and there's really no money, I mean, he really doesn't want to pay all that much money, and I mean, you could lay down a quick decent bead on there, and I mean, it's this right here in the middle, this blue one. It doesn't mean that it's for lazy people or anything like that. That's not what I'm trying to say. It's just the thing with that is it's pretty much a standard weld is what it is. And in the welding world, they would rather have a standard weld than something like these other two here. And I mean, except for the car world or automotive world, of course. But I hope you guys can see this. I'm tilting this back here, and hopefully you can see the ripples in the weld. The green one seems to show much better. The red one has some decent one. The blue one's a little dark, but I mean, there's very little ripples in that blue one. Just even that right there gives, even that blue one that I did has tiny little bit of ripples, and that's probably because I work with these other techniques better. I do have other techniques for filling metal, and I'll probably make a different video for that if I get enough requests, but that's pretty much it, guys. I mean, there's nothing really advanced when it comes to flux core other than those two, but I guess before I end the video, I guess I could talk a little bit more about the whip and pause or the cursive E on flux core. So really quick, just to touch off on that, a lot of people are saying, will tell you, and especially the professional welder, I mean the professional welders will tell you, no, that's not the way you do it, and you can't do little circles and this and that, just because you'll get slag inclusion. If you look at these welds, there's no such thing as slag inclusion in them. And the reason behind that is because when I weld, I don't let puddle solidify between the whip and pause and cursive E. I mean, I'm coming back to a semi-molten puddle, which is not finished degassing or outgassing, I should say. It hasn't finished outgassing. So while it's outgassing, I still catch onto it. I add more filler, and it also mixes back into the weld, and it gives it kind of the it just doubles up on the oxidizers that are in the wire. So that's why I'm able to do those techniques. And you can actually push flux core if you really want with a whip and pause if you want to get really deep heat into the material. And that's probably going to be a different video for a different day, but you can do a lot of amazing stuff with flux core. And just because it's a little Harbor Freight welder doesn't mean that it can't weld worth a crap and it's just a little boat anchor or a door stop. You could do some pretty decent stuff, especially for the home hobbyists or the home guys who are out there in their garage tinkering around. You don't need to spend $1,000 for, you know, a sub-professional machine. But also, right before I finish this video, I'm going to show you the thickness of this material, which will probably freak some of you guys out. You guys might think this is some really thick stuff, and all this is tubing. I mean, this thing is thin. And I got my little Miller gauge here, and I'm just going to go ahead and take a quick reading what the thickness is of this material. So I'm looking at 16 gauge flux core welds on 16 gauge. Yeah, it can be done. You can do that on up to 18, 20 gauge if you really want. It's just all about technique. Practice makes perfect, and anybody could do this. Once you could do this with a Harbor Freight welder, hell, you could do amazing stuff, I'm sure, with a MIG or an advanced MIG welder that the professionals use. So you'll probably be certified to do welding on the Starship Enterprise for Star Trek and all that cool stuff. I hope it helps some people out there. For those new guys out there, if you really like this video, go ahead and subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys on the next one.